What's up, everyone? Thank you for checking out this episode of Raised Geek. This week, we discuss episode 8 of HBO's The Last of Us. So let's get into it. I'm Chris, and as always, I'm here with my buddy, Don. How we doing, man?
Chris, what is up today, my friend? I'm okay. I'm okay. That's all I can say is I'm okay. Don't you like when people say, like, how you doing today? And everyone's a common response will just be like, well, I woke up this morning. I almost said that, like, I woke up with breathing this morning, but then I was like, you're going to really sound like an old man. So I didn't say that, but, you know, maybe I was thinking it.
But because this is getting awkward as we're dragging this out longer and longer for those on YouTube, we have another person with us. We're joined for this episode with our friend Tony, who you may remember, who's been on the show before talking about The Harder They Fall over on Netflix. So go check that out in the archive. But Tony, how you doing, man?
Well, I woke up today and no, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, guys. Excited to talk to my friends about a really good show.
Tony's a fan of cowboys and zombies, so
it's true.
Like most of us are. So
cowboys and zombies. So was cowboys and zombies. Aliens your thing?
Are you referencing that movie?
Yeah, I am.
Don't do that. Did you like that movie?
I remember thinking it was okay. But
yeah, I remember being really excited about it, especially when the cast came out. And then I watched it and I was just kind of like, man, felt like they had an opportunity there and they dropped the ball.
Who directed that?
Was that Daniel Craig, right?
Yeah, and Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford.
That was directed by Jon Favreau.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they can't all be Marvel gems.
Yeah.
Screenplay by David Lindelof and all the Lost guys. Produced by Ron Howard.
I still remember thinking, just like during the trailers and everything for that just I couldn't get past Daniel Craig in a cowboy hat. It just looked weird.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. British people in a cowboy hat's weird.
It's strange.
It's right.
He's an actor.
There's no UK cowboys.
American.
Was he though? Didn't he used his English accent in that, didn't he?
I don't think so. I don't think they would have let that. Maybe. I can't remember it.
Yeah, it's best we don't think about it, because you know what? We're here to talk about The Last of Us, episode 8, When We Are in Need. This is the penultimate episode of The Last of Us. Finale is next week. This is already over, and we got to figure out what we're going to watch next.
It happened fast. This season flew by.
Yeah, 9 weeks of our life is gone.
Yeah.
Here's something I want to make clear before we start. Like, me and Chris for the past 7 weeks have talked about this show. And we let it be known we played the game. Tony played a little bit of the game, never completed it. And I'm just curious, like, as someone who hasn't, just as a show in general, we haven't talked to you on here about it. Like, what have you thought of this show so far? Like,
as far as like when you hear that there's going to be a show or a movie that's a video game adaptation, you never get your hopes up too high because of the way that's gone in the past. But I've been completely impressed and I've really enjoyed every episode. My wife, Jess, and I were watching the show last night, and just the recap from last week, I was like, just watching the recap, I'm just staring. I'm like, this show is so good. This show is really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've enjoyed it. Yeah, like I played a little bit of the game. It was good. I really liked it. I got hung up on this one part and got super frustrated, and just it never got turned back on again.
You rage quit?
Probably. It was probably my first and only rage quit. You know, I think I just fell off of it, and then life happened or other games happened, and you know, I don't game as much as I used to. So it's definitely something I'm probably going to revisit after the finale. I'll probably go back and play it. Because I thought about after episode 1 or 2, either buying it or borrowing it from Don, and I was like, I just want to watch this as a viewer now and not as a gamer, and I want to experience it that way. So yeah, I've really dug it. You put Pedro Pascal on anything and you're probably going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So, you know,
seems to be the trend.
Yeah. As soon as this is over, I'm hopping on Mandalorian. I'm going to binge the hell out of that.
It's a Pedro Pascal-a-loser.
Yes.
Did anybody start the Mandalorian yet?
No, I'm gonna wait till this is until next week.
I did watch the first one.
Did you?
Yeah.
Was it good?
It's
more Mandalorian.
It's not Last of Us.
well, I'm sure we're going to talk about the Mandalorian at some point on this show.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fine. It was
Just quick
right.
thoughts. You don't have to give us a full book report.
I know we talked about like Andor. Tony, did you watch Andor at all?
No.
Okay. After watching Andor, everything Star Wars now that's not Andor just seems like you're nothing.
Garbage.
So yeah, I heard really good things about that, and that's it's in my queue. Same thing, just playing catch up. There's so much content now on all these different platforms. Like I finally finished Dark, and that was just trying to get up to date and through that. And just finding time with everyday schedule to be like, oh, I have time to sit down and do this. So yeah, Andor's in my queue. I'll get there.
Nice. Yeah, we're adult men with jobs. It's hard.
Yeah, things are different now.
Yeah. But we are watching this one, so let's talk about it. Spoilers, full spoilers for episode 8 of The Last of Us coming your way in 3, 2, 1. Last chance to bail. No one bailed, right?
Don't
Everyone's
bail.
Still here. No bail. Please don't bail. So this episode to me was like almost a nearly flawless adaptation from the game, which I know we said we weren't going to talk about the game that much, but this was like playing the game outside of the frustration of the David part, like, because obviously the battle was a lot longer in the game because you had to like do stuff, but this was just such a good adaptation. Here's a brief synopsis for the episode, just as a reminder, in case it's been a long time since you've watched it. Sometime you're listening to us in the distant future. That's the right thing. Distant future. Yes. Ellie crosses paths with what?
No, I said you were close. Go ahead.
Close. Ellie crosses paths with a vengeful group of survivors and draws the attention of its leader, while a weakened Joel faces a new threat in hopes of saving Ellie. Brief synopsis. So that was what this episode of The Last of Us was about, and it looked cold as hell.
Yeah, we're officially in the winter months of this. We've talked about we're going in seasons here on this show. That was a big cough there.
It was muted.
I managed to get the mute button at the last second.
We saw the force of that cough.
For those watching on YouTube, you got to experience it.
Yeah, thanks for calling it out to the audio. All right.
Yeah, you can't leave them hanging.
This is great radio, great audio. Yeah, man, it looked cold. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you do. You watch the after, like the talk with the creators they do afterwards. And they sat with Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey both talking about how, it's freezing and they had giant fans and whatever. So
they were filming in February in Calgary.
Right. So that shit's cold.
On top of them blowing fans that were as tall as a house at them.
Yeah.
It had to be cold as shit.
It just added to the authenticity of it. But I agree with you what you said. It is like almost a perfect adaptation from the game. And this is like one of my favorite chapters from the game, like the David stuff. Even though like in the game, there is a lot of infected you have to deal with. This is another episode we have here with like 0 infected. Is that what they're calling it? Infected? I know. But some people have a big problem with that. I really don't. I think they're focusing on the characters and the story more and like getting further into the human conflicts than the actual monsters. So that is a definite plus for me. Don't ruin my monologue.
Chris and I drank identically for it just out of nowhere. Our hands both came up at the same time. I'm sorry, ruining your podcast.
Interloper. No, yeah, I thought this was actually one of the better episodes, and they're all really good. But I thought this one really stood out to me as like entertaining in an action sense with what's going on with like Joel and the villagers, but then also like the conversations between Ellie and David and their interaction and like him being like, we keep thinking we know who the villain like oh, who's the biggest bad in this show? How bad can someone get? We had Kathleen and Fedra and all these things, and then David comes along and he's like the creepiest motherfucker that ever was. But yeah, I loved this episode. I thought it was great.
What do you think, Tone?
I enjoyed it. I want to note something that you guys said. You guys are like, oh, I watched the after show with the inside sneak peek, and I almost did on the first episode, and I decided not to because I feel like a lot of the times with new shows they do that, and then I feel like it takes me out of the episode, and I'm thinking about the actors and the production side of it instead of the story. So I haven't done that yet, so I'm not privy to any of that. So it's cool to hear about that stuff, but also for me, like right after the episode, I just don't want to watch it. I'm like, no, I want to have that fantasy in my head still and enjoy it that way.
Well, I think for you, once it's done, if you go back and listen to the podcast, because all of that stuff comes from that podcast, because the few episodes of their official podcast that I've listened to, I've heard the same snippets. So, and I think they even have it as video. I think they have those podcast episodes as video on HBO somewhere.
Video podcast.
I think they do.
That's cool. Yeah, that's definitely something I'll follow up with after next week. But yeah, just in the meantime, I've just been enjoying like I said, the story of it. And I was like, I don't have any interest in finding out how they're doing this. I'm just taking it as the fantasy that it is and just enjoying it. But yeah, sorry to side note on that. But yeah,
sidebars are cool, man. Sidebars.
I really enjoyed last night's episode. Super entertaining, super dark as usual, but that's what this show is about. The apocalypse happened and now this is what we're dealing with. So it's not like it's going to be sunshine and rainbows. But yeah, as you said, we're always asking who the big bad is. And so far, David's, worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Pretty. We got to see dark ass Joel in this episode too, though.
Oh, for sure. And that came out. That was like something when that scene happened. It was we've watched those two grow as father and daughter over time. At this point, it was just like full blown, nothing else. Like that's his daughter at this point. You know what I mean? That's who she is to him, and that's her dad. So as soon as he got what he needed, and as soon as he found out that those dudes had anything to do with her not being there, done. And it was it was super dark, but that's just where he's at.
Little psycho Ellie is rubbing off on Joel.
Well, yeah, I think we finally
Ellie. Yeah.
I think we finally saw Joel, like you said, reach his breaking point with, in his mind, thinking she's in danger. Like he's protected her in ways before, like shot at people, help, stood in front of her when there's danger. But this is the point where like he wakes up and she's not there.
Right.
He thinks that these people that I am hearing walking around or whatever, these guys are responsible for it. And that switch finally flipped in him where he's just like, oh shit, he's as bad as they've been saying he is. Like everyone has described him as this dude who's going to protect anybody and like whatever. But now you finally get to see it like raw, just not giving a fuck about your life because she's in danger. Like, I don't give a fuck about you anymore. And that's my favorite Joel when he reaches that point. So yeah, all that stuff was great.
Absolutely. Now I have to give my shout out to Bella Ramsey in this episode. She's been growing on me this whole show. Last couple episodes, I really haven't had a problem, but she was just like phenomenal in this episode of just being that little psychopath that I was okay with. Like she was scaring me in the first few episodes, but by the time we get to this one, I was loving it. I've heard just yelling at them, I'm over here, motherfuckers, and shooting a gun at. Like I wasn't even expecting her to shoot a gun with him when she was on that horse. She was like, I'm going to go lead them away. And she was on that horse and she was like, I'm over here, and started just shooting at them. I was laughing, man. I just wasn't expecting that. Little psycho Ellie for the win. I was full on board.
This is like two episodes in a row where she's grown, and anybody who was questioning the casting at all at the beginning, like at this point, you can't really.
I think by episode 2 or 3, any of the people that were doubting it were like, okay, yeah, we're on her team now.
Yeah. Like I said, they were doing some things with it. Like I said, she's from the game, she is a little bit more not creepy, but like I said, psychotic. She's a little bit more violence, like pro violence, a little bit more obsessive with that than I think she was in the game at the beginning. So, but they're building to it, and it's built really nice to where by the time we got to this point where she really had to unleash that for her survival, it was just done great. And like I said, her going one-on-one with David was just done perfectly. It was done so well.
Well, I think in like the game, they let you know that Ellie loves Joel and like she's looking at him as a father figure. But in this, I think they're doing that, but also kind of trying to exaggerate the fact that she wants to kind of be like him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like she looks at him as a role model. And I think in her mind, while she's doing stuff, like holding the gun on David and James and like lowering her voice when she's saying like, "Hey, you, buddy boy," like she's doing what she thinks Joel would do in these situations. Like she admires him more,
and that
like more.
That whole hunting scene with her, lining up the buck, that was literally, move for move what Joel had taught her.
Mm-hmm.
So it shows that she's mirroring him, exactly. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see how they, rounded that up, and yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, they've done a good job with showing that a lot of time has passed with Joel and Ellie being together, and they've like rubbed off on each other in a lot of different ways, and just kind of really like Tony said earlier, really just establish that father-daughter relationship, and it's definitely showing in this, and of her idolizing him. Speaking of people idolizing Ellie, Scott Shepherd was super creepy as David. Did a super good job of just always making you feel comfortable, but not like you just felt something was off, but he was saying the right things. When he was introduced, you're just sitting there like, was he right? And even when he was sitting there and he said, when he was sitting with Ellie while they were waiting for James to come back with the penicillin, he was sitting there and he was telling this story, and he's like, well, we know that you guys killed our men and they were just out looking for food. And I'm like thinking back to last episode or 2 episodes ago going, no, they just attacked them. Like it wasn't just that they were looking for food or out looking for supplies. They just straight up attacked them. So you're like, is this group weird? But they might've been looking for food.
Looking for food. Yeah.
Right. Food, their food. What is their food though, Chris?
Right.
Yeah, I know. It makes sense. As I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, oh, that probably does work. And that's probably exactly what they were going for.
Yeah.
They saw like a big turkey when they saw Joel.
A big turkey.
Cartoon style, or Newman style. Newman looking at Kramer. Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, David's super creepy. He was in the game. He is here, probably even more so. It's just something about that subtle, like nice guy exterior, but you can sense there's something weird about somebody, and they're just, the more layers you peel back on them, the creepier they get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like if Hollywood's taught me anything, it's like generally preachers in the apocalypse usually aren't cool.
Right. They're all some kind of psychotic.
They take advantage of the situation to
absolutely
do their thing. I mean, you saw how much food was on his plate versus everyone else.
Yeah.
He was eating way better than everybody else.
Mentioned the casting issue with Bella Ramsey, how people were having a problem with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know better than I do, but I usually read a couple little follow-ups when the episode's over. But is the original Joel from the game in this episode?
Yes. So Troy Baker,
I didn't know that, which was cool to find out afterwards.
Yeah. Troy Baker, who does the voice, does a lot of voices. He's like done Batman and Joker and stuff. But he's probably best known for voicing Joel, and he played James, like the right-hand man.
Right. David.
Well, he did all the motion capture too.
Yeah, he did all the motion capture.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. So he was like the full-blown Joel before this.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He's Joel. He hosts the podcast they do, like the official one. He's the host. And
dude, that's wild that's how he got taken out then. I know you said spoilers, but that it was Ellie who did them. Like, that's awesome.
Well, see, for a while, his casting was secret. Like, we knew he was on this show, but nobody knew who he was playing. And like, he wasn't in any of the trailers, really. You didn't really see him. And then me and Chris had this theory, as I'm sure many others did, like, they're going to make that motherfucker play David. Mm-hmm. Like, the guy who's the hero, who's been the hero for all the games, is going to play the worst person in this entire game. It's going to be David. They didn't go with that, but they went with James, which is like still close enough.
Oh, he was trying to kill Ellie from the get-go. So
he's still,
which is the exact, the juxtaposition of who he was for the entire game. So
so that was actually very fun that we got to have him. He got to be a part of this. I read something with him, like when they asked him to be part of it, he thought they were just going to cast him as a clicker.
That's what I read too. I was like,
oh, I actually get to be somebody.
So he got to have a role and be seen and challenge himself in a different way.
Meat cleaver, brutal.
Yeah, cleaver to the neck.
Not cool at all. She got him good. So going back to David a little bit, I did want to bring up before we moved on, his monologue when he was really convincing Ellie was top notch. I loved that monologue of him and Bella Ramsey together, but just David's monologue was so convincing and just so well done. And Ellie did such a good job of like falling into it before she turned on him. And it was just such good TV, man. Such good TV. I don't know if you guys hated it or not.
No, it was good. It was like ultra creep. You know what I mean? Like as soon as his hand went up there on the cell door, it was like, okay. I was like, this same vibe is coming again. And then it got worse. And then her hand went up there. And at first I was like, what the fuck is she doing? And then I was like, no, she's baiting this guy. She's baiting him good.
Yeah. Well, I feel like some of what he was saying to her at first, like made sense to her. She started thinking about it. Like, I can't survive. What if Joel is dead? What if I, whatever. But then as he kept going and like revealed himself to be not only just a cannibal, but now you're a pedophile cannibal.
Yeah. Pedophilic cannibal.
That's when she decided, I'm going to figure out a way to kill this man.
She wouldn't about that.
That was a great scene. Their back and forth was really good. Probably one of the better scenes of the episode, I would say. Right?
Yeah, I think it was my favorite scene of the episode. Was just her yelling at him. My name is Ellie. I broke your fingers.
That was great.
That was just so great. Like such a way for her, blood's pouring down her face, and she's just like, "Yeah, motherfucker, my name's Ellie. I just broke your finger." It was just so great. They showed it after the credits too, and I just laughed, and I was like, "Yes!" It just made you feel good.
Well, it's because he'd also been trying to get her name the whole episode, and she was like, "Fuck you! I'm not telling you my name." Yeah. It's like, no, I'll tell you my name after I've broken your hand, so you can go tell all your people that this is who did it to you.
But then she knew she was going to get chopped up into little pieces and fed to the flock.
That was her last ditch effort of the bite. Which, like, so when that happened, I was like, could she infect him? Is that a possibility with her?
Does she? After when they were going to chop her up after?
Yeah. Like, is that a possibility?
I wouldn't want to eat her.
I don't think so. I think.
Well, right,
but I don't have her
bite you.
She's bitten, but she was never infected. Yeah,
I don't think she infected him, but I still wouldn't want to. I still feel like she would be tainted.
Right. That was why that was her like last ditch effort to survive for a second by telling them that.
Right.
And I think it would have worked because I wouldn't. It's the same reason they don't eat zombies in any other like apocalyptic end of time thing. You just don't eat zombies because that might turn you into one.
Yeah. Well, if we're I guess
we're here to talk. This episode was about cannibals, so we can talk about cannibals.
Yeah, I'm not going to eat a zombie. Yeah,
I'm not going to eat a zombie. I feel like it would make me sick. My hypochondria would come out hard. So if Ellie is sitting there and saying, "I'm thinking dinner," and then Ellie's like, "Hey, I've been bit," and she shows it to you, I'm gonna be like, "Yeah, I'm not hungry."
Right. That saves her from getting chopped up. I guess. Right. Yeah. There's levels to this. There was level.
Well, she bit him, right?
Yeah, she bit him too.
Right.
So then they didn't know.
That's what I was saying.
to
It was
do.
like that moment of panic for him, like, oh my God, am I going to be infected?
Yeah, not only do you not want to chop me up and serve me because I'm an infected person, but I also now have just infected you.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Would that work? You know what I mean? But if she's not actually infected, the dog didn't sense her either, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I think she's just thinking the whole time, can I get like a 5-second distraction to put this cleaver in James's neck?
And she did.
Get the hell out of here.
Yeah. If anything, it was a distraction because, even a few episodes ago, she was pouring her blood into Sam. So if she really thought she could infect them, then she wouldn't have poured her blood into Sam. She thinks she's a cure, but you can't have. But like I said, in that scenario, that would give me pause. So it was a brilliant idea that I forgot she did. So I was like, yes. What else I got on here? I wanted to mention it was crazy when that horse got shot and Ellie got thrown face first onto the frozen tundra.
Hard.
Yeah. No wonder she blacked out because that was brutal.
Yeah. I don't like when they kill horses. I'll just put it out there.
Oh man, no, me either. I was mad as hell. Ask my wife.
Like, that's the coward's way out, man. You killed the horse.
Bullshit.
Right. But and it was even worse. So they shot the horse, bring the horse back. Well, that horse was just sitting like they just threw it in the barn while they were like draining bodies. It seemed like they were taking preference over like, we're going to eat these people before we even do anything. Like they weren't even prepping the horse. Like they weren't hanging it or draining it or doing anything. They just threw it in the corner and we're like, we got people meat. We don't need horse.
There's a lot going on there.
My guess was those people had probably been hanging there for a while. That was just my guess.
It looked like it.
So
yeah, they were all blue and stuff.
It was messed up, man. Some of those bodies were little. Yeah, David's camp is creepy as fuck.
Yeah, they're creepy. We can't be done talking about David until we talk about like the end scene where, after she puts the cleaver in his neck and she runs out and it's basically in that tavern that he's now locked the door and it's set fire because she throws a thing. This is another scene straight out of the video game. And like,
it was a lot easier on the show.
That's what I was going to say. I give Ellie credit for getting through that faster than me. So I probably died. I probably died about 40 times fighting David, like the only real boss fight in that game. But yeah, that was another scene that was just perfectly captured, like almost scene for scene from the game with a just as brutal of a finish. So it was great.
My favorite part of that scene was David standing in the middle of that room yelling, "Don't you know how good I am?" I was like, oh my God, that was done so perfect and creepy.
That was weird.
I'm so good. She's like, no, I'm going to grab this knife and I'm going to stab you.
She got him with the cleaver like 100 times.
Well, yeah, but she stabbed him with the steak knife first.
Right.
And then she got thrown to the ground. David really went full creep. And then she got him with the cleaver.
Yeah, some of that was starting to get uncomfortable. And I knew
anytime a belt is undone, it's super fucking weird.
Yeah, it was getting uncomfortable. And in my mind, I know what's going to happen. I played the game. I just, in my mind, I was like, do it now. Do it now. Like,
make them pay.
Fuck this guy up. Yeah, that was some good stuff. And all the meantime, we've had Joel now trying to make his way through. Like, we kind of talked about his brutality he did to these cronies of David looking for her, which we've already like said was top notch. But I loved every second of him trying to make his way. It's kind of like subverting the viewer. Like, if you haven't played the game, we of course think that Joel's got to save her at the last second, right? Joel's going to save her at the last second, but Joel didn't have to save her. She saved herself.
They did such a good job with that I played the game and knew Joel wasn't going to save her, but I still was looking at that back door for him to show up.
Right.
Like, I was still, the way it was set up, and I just wanted him to save her, even though I knew it didn't happen, but it was just done so well that I was like, oh my God, I want him to save her. And I just kept waiting for him to pop up and take the shot. And yeah, obviously didn't happen.
She didn't need it.
Yeah. How come nobody in that village came for the fire? Like they didn't give a shit that
what
their
happened
restaurant
to
was cooking
anyone
down?
in that village? You know what I mean? Like, where did any of them go? Did they all just tuck tail after that? I mean, obviously, a lot of them are living in fear, denial that they're eating their family. You know what I mean? So probably not the flock that David was selling, but yeah, a little weird that there wasn't any sort of pushback by anybody else.
Right.
You know what I think? You know what I think a nice touch might have been if, and I know like this would have been something they would have had to add because it wasn't in the game. But if some people from the village would have came in and saw what Ellie was doing and not stopped her,
Yeah.
because they secretly hate David because he's like kind of a tyrant, like a dictator. You know, he's slapping girls who talk back to him and
I'm
feeding
your
them
father
human meat.
now.
Right.
Who's your daddy and what does he do?
Yeah.
I'm your father now.
That could have been.
Isn't there somebody there? That's a line somewhere, right? Like, I'm the father now.
No,
That's not a line for anything.
that's not.
I mean, the who is your daddy and what does he do?
That's Kindergarten Cop, but what's the I'm your daddy now? I know I'm saying it in Schwarzenegger's voice. That's a line from a movie. It might not be Schwarzenegger.
Is that like in Commando or something? Am I just forgetting? I don't know.
Oh, he was the daddy in Commando.
Yeah.
He's Alyssa Milano's dad. Wait, hold on. Does he say it at the end of Kindergarten Cop? What was the kid's name?
Dominic.
I'm your daddy now.
No, he doesn't say that. That'd be presumptuous of him in that new relationship. I just
Dominic
killed your
alone.
ex-husband. I'm the daddy now.
Crisp. Where's Crisp?
That was a weird thing. Sorry about that. I'm hungry. Need to eat some food.
Memories of you guys going on rants about Kindergarten Cop just popped into my head. I've got to go. He's got to get my lasers.
My lasers.
Jonathan.
That kid was
people.
That kid was committed to those lasers. Like he climbed that whole tower to put pieces of tinfoil up there. We'll have to have Tony back for Kindergarten Cop. Who's ready to watch it? Then we can watch Kindergarten Cop 2 with Dolph Lundgren.
No.
Dominic's a teenager now.
Awkward. Okay. So we're ready for the finale.
Yeah, pumped.
It's going to be insane.
Okay, so we're talking about finales, so we're done with this episode. What did you guys think about the last line of the episode?
When Joel called her baby girl?
Yes.
It was amazing. It broke my heart.
I'll say it's a line we heard him use early in this season with his own daughter. This is the first time we've heard him use it for Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me misty. I'm man enough to admit it made me misty. It was it was rough. I liked it. It's finally solidified them, I think, as a family unit. They both knew that they were, but now this is like, okay, I'll do anything for you. You'll do anything for me. We're in this together. Like, we're in this to the end. They, like I said, they both kind of already knew it, but now this is just like, you know.
Yeah, I think him saying that out loud is accepting. You know what I mean? Like, obviously he's shown what he'll do for her already, but it coming out loud, I think that shows that he's accepting that his daughter is gone and that he has Ellie now.
What I loved about that,
20 years or 23 years since his daughter died?
20 years.
20?
Yeah.
the other thing I really loved about that scene was the way that they shot it. His watch was still in the shot when he said it. So he was hugging her, but you could see that watch. He said the line, like the spirit of his daughter was right there, because I saw that watch and thought of her as he said it. And it was just those little things that are just like, oh, so good.
Right.
So good.
Yeah, it's the little details in this that make this show as good as it is. Obviously, you guys are catching more being the game players of it. But a lot of time, you guys mentioned set design a lot, and it's true, man. Like, the detail that goes into these sets is awesome. And some of the side-by-sides that people are dropping online from screen grabs from the game and from the show are just incredible. Right. It's wild. Even, the banner that they have set up, in this last episode, right before the fire scene, they were showing a side-by-side. And I'm like, oh my God, did they take their time and get every detail of this right?
Yeah, which is like one of the beautiful parts of Neil Druckmann being the creative voice. Him and Neil Gaizen, I think is his name, from Chernobyl. But Neil Druckmann, like, being the creator of the game, and he's like one of the showrunners on this show. Perfect. Like, nobody has the vision and knows this world and these characters like he does. So it shows in like what we're getting.
And I'm sure there's certain things where it's just going to be like, hey, budgetary, we can't do that, but we can do this. Or, hey, it worked in the game, but it like a lot of the blowback that I hear about this game is like the show is the lack of the infected, which I get when you're talking about an infected show, if we're not saying zombie show, where you want a little more. But I think they keep up with enough action and drama where I'm totally entertained and satisfied to not have to deal with a clicker all the time or something.
You had all of that because it was a game. You don't need that. Like, the story was like, there.
If it was just a run and gun show, I'd be bored in 10 minutes of just seeing nonstop shooting and violence and running around. And
even if you go to The Walking Dead and think about them in the beginning versus where, I don't know where they ended up, but like they would have many episodes where there were no walkers, but they were super heavy story. You had that character action, you had the drama, you had those things to make you care about those characters. So when the walkers showed up, you felt genuine fear. More so than if they were just there every week. When you watch, I was watching Black Summer, I think it is, on Netflix. That's just nonstop zombies. That's just all it is. It's just running from zombies.
Yeah, you never care enough about the characters in that show.
Never do. I don't even know who the characters
are. It's good
are.
action. There's some cool stuff.
Oh yeah, there's some cool one take scenes. There's a bunch of cool stuff in that show. I didn't regret watching it, but I didn't give a shit about what I was just there to watch the zombie action. And Last of Us isn't that. They're not there for infected. Right. They're just part of the world, but it's the story about what people do when they're forced into making tough decisions and what you do for the people you love. And that's, the fact that they can translate that so well on screen. They just don't need it. I don't miss it at all.
Yeah. It's like, this world is huge. There's going to be spaces and things where dealing with other people is more dangerous than dealing with zombies or infected. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And there's been plenty of action as far as the infected are concerned. The first episode had a ton of it. The episode in the cul-de-sac had a ton of it. We just had infected the last episode with Ellie and Riley. There's enough there that I think should satisfy people. And the action of like human versus human is just as good. That the stuff we just got from Joel in this episode was top notch to me. Like, him interrogating those two guys in that house, Jesus Christ, that was incredible. So,
it was horrifying.
I hear the complaints people have, and I get it, but it's like, this kind of isn't what that show is.
Right.
I feel like those complaints are coming from the people who skip the cutscenes. Like, they're there to play the game and not necessarily care about the cutscenes. They just skip the cutscenes and get back to the next scene, and they tell their own story. I feel like that. Not necessarily saying, if you're one of them out there, hit us up on Twitter, RaisedAGeek, let us know.
For sure. Yell at my friends via social media.
That's what social media is for.
That's all it's for.
Yelling at people. But yeah, I thought that was a great way to end it. Ellie just looking completely broken and just like, oh my God, can she come back from that? Which we'll find out next episode for the finale, if she can, or if she's just a shell of a person.
Yeah, I don't know what she's going to be after this. One, super traumatic experience. Two, she finally proved to herself that she could be on her own, not that she would want to be, but I think that's going to show a lot of growth for her. 3, she, in my head, she thought Joel was dead or still laid up. So him just appearing out of nowhere, obviously, she's going to feel some way about.
Yeah. It's going to be a hell of an episode, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it better be.
Oh, God. Yeah. Tony, it's going to be crazy.
You guys know what's going to happen already.
We do.
Well, maybe.
In theory.
We'll see.
There definitely looks like there's stuff I don't remember. So I think they're definitely doing some extra builds, and they're laying a lot more groundwork than they did in the original game for future things, as well as just parts I don't remember. So I don't know. Don played it more recently than me.
I saw some stuff I recognized, but it also some things that maybe don't look so familiar. We have to also remember, we know that there's a season 2 of this coming, at least a season 2.
Yeah.
So I feel like some of what they do might change. When they made the original game, they didn't know they were going to make a second game. They didn't know how the game was going to go.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of see what they do with that. And I don't know. I'm just excited for it in general. I'm kind of sad that it's only one more week.
Yeah.
But like we've said before, good things must come to an end, and hopefully they can stick the landing, because so far, 8 episodes in, I've not been disappointed at all. Not once. And that's very rare for a show to like get you like that, especially in the first season of a show. So bring it on.
Yep. And the only silver lining, the fact that this show is over, which means 2 weeks and we get Succession.
Love Succession.
If Succession wasn't coming after this show, I would not want the show to end. But I'm okay with it ending because I get the final season of Succession.
I could wait on Succession another 5 weeks to get a few more episodes of Last of Us.
Fine, I could too. I'm just excited for Succession.
Succession series. Succession, RaisedAGeek series.
Yeah, see if anybody listens to that one.
We don't care. No,
we don't care about Succession. So, any final thoughts on this episode before we close the doors? Close the book?
It was great. Yeah.
One word close.
Another great one, and one more to go. So
Joel still got it.
There it is. Final thoughts for Last of Us episode 8. What did you think about it out there? I'm pointing at you if you're on YouTube. Hit us up, RaisedAGeek, over on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. Like, subscribe, follow, hit us up. Subscribe on Spotify. That would help us out a lot. So if you don't listen to the show on Spotify, maybe you should. And hit us up with those reviews. You can also join the conversation at raisedgeek@gmail.com. But I think that's going to do it for this week. So for RaisedAGeek, I'm Chris.
And I'm Don. And that was Tony.
I'm Tony.
And thanks for checking out the show.
Where geek is all we speak.
Geek.
I'm the father now.